War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together, we sit down, and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. We're always heavy on the sports here on this channel, but if it is orange and blue, it is what we do. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching live or on the replay. We just appreciate you taking any few minutes of your time that you have to just hang out with us and talk about what you love about the orange and blue, even during a week like this where the football side of things maybe not so much fun. But that is what we're actually going to be talking about on this live stream. It is our breakdown and grade show for the last Auburn football game, that being a 3-20. It hurts to say that 3-20 loss to the Texas A&M Aggies on the road in College Station. So we're going to do that. And, you know, on those shows, I like to bring in someone else to kind of shut me up at times and say things that are actually intelligent. So I welcome back, of course, Mr. Austin Scott. Austin, welcome.
Hey, Kyle, how you doing?
Good, Austin.
I'm so excited for basketball season tomorrow. I can't believe it's already here. I can't wait to talk about it. How about you?
Speaking of which, great segue. I'll go ahead and say this since you kind of worked that in there. We will be doing something similar that we do to this for basketball as soon as that gets geared up tomorrow. Probably starting next week, we will I'm thinking about it. You guys right now in the chat, or if you're watching this in the replay, can share in the comments what your thoughts are. We might do on Tuesday nights to start off with, and then once football is done, transition the basketball centric show to Monday nights, and still keep a Wednesday night live show where anything goes, but it's probably going to be football related mainly. So just keep that in mind. If you've got any opinions on that, please let me know. So thank you for segueing me, Austin. It's almost like we talked beforehand or something.
Almost.
Listen, Austin, can we jam about something for a second?
Let's jam.
Being an Auburn fan sucks. It really does.
It's the most exciting thing in the world.
It is the best thing in the world, but it absolutely sucks. Like it's one of the most confounding, exhilarating, thrilling, mind-boggling things in the entire world. Some of that has to do with the performance of the football team. The other part of that has to do with sometimes the, shall we say, what's a nice word I can think of? Extraneous noise that comes from certain segments of the fan base that can't get past one little thing and let it go. You're supposed to rein me in here, Austin. You're supposed to keep me from going down a certain path here.
2 minutes in.
So with that being said, we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff tonight. And look, guys, I know there's a lot of you right now that are going to hear us say some certain things about Bo Nix that you don't like, meaning that we tend to kind of lean towards supporting him a little bit more than others. That's going to turn you off. You're probably going to turn this channel off or leave your little comment and run off. That's fine. You know, whatever. But we're going to have intelligible, constructive conversations, and we're going to be honest about it as well, because we can both sit here and say, Bo had a terrible game. Can we go ahead and get that right out front, Austin?
100%.
I'll go ahead and give you, we're not even in the grading portion yet, but you can probably guess what my grade is close to being. I've waffled back and forth on what I'm going to give him, but we'll get there in just a little bit. So all of that's fair game tonight. We're going to discuss things like that. But I do want to say hello to a couple of people that are already here in the chat. We got Big Simp. He made it on time. Where'd he go? There was that comment. He says, I'm on time. We were a little bit late starting, but hey, it doesn't matter. You were here on time. That's all. That's good. Corey's here. Good to see you. War Eagle from Hoover. What's Hoover? Hoover. Blame it on Danielson. We always lose when we have him as announcer. I said that too, Austin. Like as soon as I turned the TV on and I was reminded that Gary Danielson was still there. I mean, if that's not the worst way to start off your football experience for the day, I don't know what is.
It's pretty terrible. I can't remember. We've had him. I don't know if we have had him this year. Have we? We've had like
we had him one time. I thought.
I know we've had CBS like B crew a couple times.
That's what it was. You're right.
LSU was at like 8:30 or something like that. So I knew we didn't have it, but yeah, I'd like completely forgotten how awful it is to listen to them until Saturday.
It's like, not only does he mess up names all the time, but like I will say there was one moment during the broadcast where I actually looked at Jessica and I said, did Gary just make sense in football? It was about, he was making a comment about how well Auburn was setting the edge on defense. And I was like, wow. And they showed it on the replay. I was like, that was actually a perfect commentary. It actually sounded like, I was like, this is the first time I can look at Gary and say, Gary, you knew what you were talking about.
It happens every now and then. A blind squirrel finds a nut. Isn't that the saying?
I was wondering which way you were going to go with that one. But yeah, so Danielson's always fun. We got Kevin Kelly's here. Good to see you. War Eagle will win the rest of the season. I hope so. Auburn's got the potential to do it. Danielson's never okay. John Stokes is here. Dusty's here. Unbeaten Lake. Felix. A lot of our channel members and Booster Club members. Thank you guys for your support. By the way, Booster Club members, you have the link to call in at any point that you would like to and join us here on the show, and can chat along with us. So don't be shy. Take advantage of that if you are a Booster Club member. So that's the call lines are only open for them tonight. And so, yeah, let's go from there. Let's look at some of these other comments. John says it was a missed opportunity. It really was. I mean, there were missed opportunities on both sides of the ball, more on the offense. And this is what feels like one that we let slip through our fingers a little bit. And I'll be honest with you. We're exactly where I thought we would be. So to me, like, it sucks that we lost and I was upset about it. But this is kind of where I expected us to be. All along, and I'm not just saying this to toot my horn, but I'm just trying to say that this is, my reasons for believing this were validated, that the offensive line didn't know the wide receivers are going to be that bad. Some of the, areas of the defense that were going to be a little bit thin in certain areas were going to plague us all season, and it has. So I'm not disappointed so far. What is your mindset so far after the Texas A&M loss, Austin?
Yeah, you mentioned you thought the team's about where you thought it would be. To me, they're a little ahead. I didn't really think we'd be going into the first game in November with a chance to win it. And I definitely didn't think we would still control our own destiny before that game. So they're a little ahead of where I thought they'd be. And I really think that that's a testament to kind of how Bryan Harsin has gotten the team to respond to his leadership.
Right.
And everything like that. So they're better than I thought they'd be. So I'm with you. I'm not totally disappointed. I'm disappointed because it felt like we had a real opportunity going into that game to really have a special season and keep on track. And that's the other thing. I'm going to be the happy-go-lucky. Our season's still in front of us, and still a season that would be higher than what I would have expected is still ahead of us. So you and I have talked about too. I'm not trying to go on this overarching tangent. My happiness and joy does not fully invested in Auburn football, which is probably a reason I'm not as disappointed as some people. But also, speaking football alone, the team's just not as bad as I had feared coming into it.
Yeah, the deficiencies, the areas of concern that I had are all there, but they have shown potential to be better. And that is more than I could have hoped for, to be honest with you. And so I would say that, like, probably before the game, I was leaning where you were, where the team was maybe on a slight incline higher than where I thought they would be. It kind of brought it back down to reality, where I thought it was like, okay, what I thought seems to be the case. But plenty of seasons still ahead.
Absolutely.
I will say, and let me go ahead and give a shout out to the Texas A&M fans, at least those that have stopped by our channel. Most of them handle, and I can't even think of one. So I'm just saying most is because I know there's bad ones out there. Have been very classy about this win, and they're rooting for us now. Well, obviously they're rooting for us because if we got to beat Alabama for them to get in the championship game. Flip side of that is we unfortunately can't root for them right now because we've got to hope. I think it's Ole Miss has them up.
Yeah.
And, LSU, as weird as they are, trying to beat big teams this season, even when they're about to lose their head coach. So you never know. That's still out on the table.
Absolutely.
If you want to have that in your back pocket as a reason to be hopeful. Unbeaten Lake brings up a point. I tried to defend Jimbo Fisher for a long time, but it's becoming really hard to defend Jimbo. He said, "Did you see Jimbo accused us of stealing signals? He also accused us of stealing signals in 2014. Think we should accuse Jimbo of stealing signals." Thoughts on that?
I'm with you. I'm not, Jimbo Fisher's not high on my list. The funny thing about this that Lake just mentioned there, that I found hilarious is he's right. He accused us of stealing the signals back in 2014 at the national championship game. He accused Damian Craig, who was on our staff then, And he said they hadn't changed their signals. It's like, well, why haven't you changed your signals in a year when Damian Craig was on your staff? But Damian Craig's now on his staff. So, I mean, I don't.
So is it like a double reversal of everything now? Because he's stealing our signs and stealing your signs and then stealing our signs.
I can't believe he made the accusation right after they won the game. It's like, buddy, you just won.
So and that's the thing is if you had lost, you would, okay, he's having sour grapes, but at least you lost. You won the game and you won it, not convincing, like by a good margin enough to where it doesn't make a difference. Why are you whining?
Yeah,
it's like Dan Mullen in 2019 when he kept complaining about and saying the awful things about, was it Derek Brown or was it it wasn't Derek Brown.
No, why am I slipping on his
other
name?
defensive lineman?
Falcons now, his tandem.
Hold on. I know this is killing me right now, and everybody's screaming at us.
Marlon Davidson.
Marlon Davidson, yes. Yeah. And the dude won a huge game against us at his home place. And it was probably one of his big signature wins. And all he can do is complain about that. Might I say that I wrote the article that got asked about him in the press conference. That is still to this day I hang my hat on that.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. It's like I mean, if you want to bring it up later, but you won. I don't understand it.
I like this. Hold on. Let me address this first. Felix says he might call in tonight. Please do. We'd love to hear from you, Felix. I haven't heard from you in a couple of weeks, at least call in wise. So we'd love to hear from you. You've got the link as a Booster Club member. Let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna bring this up. We're not here yet. Everybody, calm down. Big Simp says Bo gets a B+ from me on my early grade. I don't know that I agree with that. I don't know that Austin agrees with that. We haven't talked about it, but that is certainly an opinion. Nobody jump on Big Simp. Everybody can have their own opinions. Okay. Whew, I felt like I was like opening up the floodgates there by I can just see like people's eyes flaring up now. How dare you? John has a good point that the D was surprisingly good. I have a bit of it's not controversial, but a different opinion from everybody else. We'll get to that though in just a little bit. Big Simp says the game plan was solid. The execution was a lot to be desired. We had opportunities to score. And John says trick plays seem to be our downfall. We obviously are not skilled enough to pull those off in high pressure situations right now. Was it a bad play call? And we're referring to I think it was a flea flicker. I don't know that it was a bad call. It was mainly the execution, because if, Bo gets a better toss and Bo actually, catches the ball, there's a guy wide open way downfield and he's got time to do it. So, that's the funniest thing about those type of plays. If they don't work out, you're the biggest idiot on the planet. If they do, you're a genius.
Right.
It can't be one or the other, apparently. Or it can't even be like right in the middle. It's like, it's a good play. I wish he hadn't have done it. But anyway. All right, let's see. We may not get to all of the things tonight here, but I'm sure everybody has plenty of commentary on that. So why don't we go ahead and start off right here with the offense? And should we just get the big elephant in the room out of the way, Austin? Should we do that one first?
You start it too. I want to hear it.
Oh, so we're talking about the offensive line. No, I'm kidding. That is the elephant in the room, but we're going to talk about the one that everyone wants to talk about, that everybody's got their opinions about. And I will say again, if you will not say what you're typing, and I'm not talking about anybody here in the chat right now, but especially those people that like to do it on social media, if the things that you say on social media, you wouldn't say to the guy's face, don't say it. It just makes you look like an idiot.
Be honest. Some of you would say you'd say it to his face, and
exactly. And and most of their response after that is, "Oh, I would say it to his face." You wouldn't. You get right in front of that guy who's still probably taller than you and cower down. Anyway, sorry, I'm trying not to get too fired up tonight. I promised myself I wouldn't. I know you're supposed to keep me on the track here. Okay, so we're talking about the grades right now for quarterback. Obviously, TJ Finley didn't see any time, so he's not a factor in this. Bo, 20 for 41, 153 yards, 3 I'm coughing because of that, 3.7 per yards per throw. An interception. I'm this may be an unpopular opinion, but I'm throwing that out because that's just there's that's a desperation interception that where you've got no hope at that point unless you pull something off and he's just trying to pull it out of his butt, So that I'm not even counting him against that, but a 26.0 QBR rating. I'm looking at ESPN stats. So stats alone, not good.
And a fumble.
And a fumble. Thank you for reminding me of that. 2 fumbles. That one he lost.
One lost. Yeah.
So when I look at Bo's grade, again, I think it's a tale of 2 halves. You look at the second half, wasn't great, but there was nothing really glaring about it. The second half, when the run game got stopped, wide receivers at that point had dropped every pass known to man. Bo was rattled. And we've seen that Bo has had a history of getting rattled on the road when he has no support.
Right.
Again, the responsibility is on the quarterback to not let that affect you, but you cannot negate that from how a quarterback forms. I'm not the only one saying that, folks. Your coach, Harsin, said that today in his press conference. Either you believe him or you don't. The coach is saying it. It's not me. So you got to factor that in. All that being said, Bo had a terrible game. Was it worse than Georgia State? No, because he didn't get benched. So by that factor alone, I can't give him an F. I've wanted to try to give him a D or even a D plus, but I can't find myself to do it because of the 2 fumbles. And even though I want to negate the interception, you got to count that against him. It's a D minus for me because, while he got 153 yards, he really wasn't all that effective running the ball. No, not effective at all. 7 runs for 18 yards. And mainly he lost any yards he got because he was getting sacked left and right.
Yeah.
So Bo gets a D minus for me. And I don't think that's an unfair grade whatsoever. What do you think?
I am spot on with you. We're 1 for 1 together. I have D minus. And like you, I wanted to give an F. But, and part of me was kind of looking at this, like you mentioned, you and I have been not critical of Bo as much as others have been for quite a while. But so I'm trying to look at that objectively and see, am I just wanting to not give an F? But I had a D minus because it was a terrible performance. But just like you mentioned, and like I saw in the press conference today, Coach Harsin said, and he reiterated that he has said it, the quarterback gets way too much credit and the quarterback gets way too much blame.
Because it's the easy one to blame.
Because it's the easiest one, and fair enough. Like that's the pressure.
That comes with the territory.
Amen. That comes with the territory. That is the pressure of being quarterback 1 at a premier school in the premier conference. So please hear me that I'm not saying, if he just had some more help, that game would have been, his performance there would have been just fine. Because it would not have. His performance was horrible and worthy of a D minus. I do not think, and we're going to get into the other grades here, I do not think it was all on him, but he did nothing to help his own cause.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's the thing. You can be honest and say, hey, he didn't really do anything to make this better. But was it really all his fault? No,
and
really
the
wasn't.
thing with me is I do not want to get on this tangent, but why we are just absolutely crucifying the kid who played his butt off to finally get us a win in Baton Rouge, who went on the road in Arkansas and had one of his best games, and then outplays Matt Corral, the guy who everyone wants to win the Heisman for 3 straight games. I'm sorry. And that's another thing. Oh, Kyle.
Hey, bring it down. I'm kidding. You can do it.
Is good. This is not the A&M Big 12 defense they came into the league with. That's a good defense. And they dialed it. They had 2 weeks to prepare, and they dialed it up perfectly for Bo. And it showed. He like you said, he was rattled, and it showed.
Yeah. Corey, we will talk about that kicker commit because I'm a kicker or a former kicker, and I love talking about it. We'll get there, though. Yeah, so look, it is what it is. Bo had a terrible game, and we all recognize that. If you're a reasonable person, you recognize Bo stunk the field up.
Yeah.
But a reasonable person also looks at it and says, hey, it wasn't all his fault. And those problems don't become as big of an issue if there are other areas taking care of business as well. Real quickly, because I want to get to the other ones. TJ Finley, do you think he should have gotten some time? Do you think it had gotten as bad as Georgia State, where I think we all whether you agreed with it in the moment or not, recognized that was the right call to make. Do you think we had reached a point during Texas A&M where TJ would have made a difference?
You're asking me if I think TJ Finley should have gotten time at quarterback, right? Not left tackle or wide receiver.
Yes, at quarterback.
No, I do not. No, I do not.
Yeah, I don't think we reached that point. Bo had reached that point much quicker in the Georgia State game, where it was, I think, probably like mid third quarter. This didn't implode, I think, until like 10 minutes left in the third, and not even implode. The implosion happened after the fumble. You know,
there were obvious misses by Bo, like at home against Georgia State that were like on him specifically.
Yep.
Like the offensive line and receivers haven't been good all year.
Yeah.
But in that game, it was him, and it was like, okay, you're not helping your cause here at all, and it is on you. And I did not see that at all this game.
Yeah. I think everybody, you know, I could feel the Bo haters out there. The moment he overthrew, I forget who it was on the deep pass. They're like, there it is. That's the thing they're going to harp on. Yeah. Every quarterback has a few overthrows in every game. You forget that. But anyway, so we're going to beat that dead horse too much for too long here. Let's see. Dusty's got a point here, acknowledging that nobody helped Bo out, but a 3-year starter, you would hope he would be the guy picking the rest of the team up, not the guy getting routed. You would hope that, but you also got to recognize, in my opinion, that this is a guy that's been through 3 coordinator changes and has not had any support for those 3 years. So there's going to be some stigmas. There's going to be some built-in natures that are very easy to fall back on, unfortunately, when things get a little tough. And I would think all of us would be very susceptible to that. Let's see. I'm not hating on Bo. I'm hating on the O-line. Corey, we'll hear your opinions when you get there. All right, let's see. Let's talk about, I don't know, take your pick. Let's just do running backs. Because again, I think this is another one where it's kind of hard to grade them because they didn't really have much help either. But also, I think Tank got off to a decent start. I will note that it seemed like Tank earned more yards on his own than he was getting help from the offensive line, because I can remember several times where he drugged some people coming through the line. He's 15 for 69, 4.6 yards per carry. So not bad, a long of 11. Jacquez Hunter, 4 for 14. He's been very quiet after the good start of the year he has. Sean is more productive in the passing game. But he gets a couple of runs there. And then obviously we know about Bo getting sacked left and right and having to run for his life in this game. So rushing a game, I don't know. I'm going to let you take this one first. What do you think?
Sure. I wrote D+. Like you said, I thought that they started out pretty well. I thought Tank started out pretty well, especially after he had such a big game last week against Ole Miss. But, you know, I've hit on this a lot. There's still holes that were definitely missed by Tank that would have allowed him some easier yardage instead of doing it all himself. So, you know, similar to Bo, I think it's not all on them. There was a lot of things that they couldn't control as far as getting, you know, that burst off the line when they get the ball, because there was no hole. But it's not like they did anything extraordinary either.
Right.
And so I thought that part of the offense, as much as I hate to say it, because it's like a combined like under 100 yards rushing, that part of the offense was better than the other side. Even though it was more yardage, it felt like that was more reliable, as desperate as that sounds. But so I gave him just higher than quarterback, but just a D+ for me.
I'm going to be a little bit more forgiving. And everybody, you can share your grades now in the chat when some of you have already done that for running back. I'm going to give him a C-. It's because, you know, again, it's really hard for me to grade these guys accurately because they not being utilized as much as I think they should. They're not getting much help. I think Tank is the thing that really pushes it higher for me because the guy really fought for some yards in this game. You know, Sean, I don't think was utilized in the best ways outside of the passing game. Jacquez, you know, as a freshman running back, you know, the fact that he had such a great start, that's good and all, but you kind of expect them to not be the star when they first get here. I really think Tank is the thing that makes me feel better this game about the offensive or the running back situation. So I'm going to stick with a C-. It's like it meets expectations, but it's still far below where it should be. And that's why I have to throw that minus in there. Dusty says Austin makes a good point about Tank, though he did miss a huge hole one time. That would have been a huge gain. There was that. I don't know if we're talking about the same time where he literally run into the back of the offensive lineman and just kind of pushed the pile to the ground as opposed to bouncing. And I think that's the thing that I've been missing from Tank is the bounce. He's not a bounce and roll like a Sean Shivers is, which I love about him, by the way. It's why he's one of my favorite players. When you give that guy some momentum, he instead of just driving through people, he just kind of bounces, and then levels his pads and takes someone's helmet off. Tank is just one of those guys that hits and then kind of gathers himself and keeps going. And he's been missing that a lot this year. And so I think that's one of the things that I think is really lacking from his game. And I don't know why that is. John says Tank did not adjust and missed some holes. A for back for Big Simp. Defensive front was one of the best we'll face. Tank had to earn it.
Big Simp is forgiving tonight.
He is, and I love it. Listen, Big Simp, you can be as optimistic about this as you want because I love that because we need more of that right now. The 120-yard gain on that one.
I think he's agreeing with you.
Okay. Sorry, the whole typo thing there threw me off. Corey says Tank's not very good up the middle, but if he can hit the outside, he's got the yards. I mean, I think I disagree. He is good up the middle when he's given support.
If there's a middle to go through.
Exactly. That's the thing that I think is I think everybody, whether they're reasonable or not, recognizes this offensive line as a unit, not calling out an individual player, is not working. But some people are not willing to level and say that is the ultimate reason why this offense is not being successful right now. And it is. We're going to get there.
Go ahead and get to it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was fine. Let's do everybody offer up your offensive line grades right now.
Let's hear it.
I had my biggest outburst of the entire season in my living room, and Jessica witnessed it. I got upset 2 times in a row and leapt out of my recliner, yelling to the top of my lungs at the offensive line. How I listen. I have outbursts every game. Everybody does because that's just the nature of football. It's a rah game and stuff like that. But this was like a visceral response where I lost my cool and I could not take it anymore. Just how do I keep this very nice? Just the people want to sit here and say in 3 years, Bo should get it together. In 4 years, an offensive line should get it together. Yep. So there you go. So what's your excuse for that? I'm not taking a shot at anyone in particular here. I'm just, it irks me how we make these arguments and then we don't look at the flip side of it. No. So 4 years, most of these guys have been together and it isn't working. And, I'm not going to sit here and say these guys aren't talented because I think they are. I've seen them do better. And I think that, like people are frustrated with Bo, is the most frustrating thing for me. I've seen these guys do better. I know they're better than this. And for whatever reason, whether it's just because the scheme keeps switching on them, I don't know. I finally flipped my lid. If there was an F, you know what? This is a Z. And that's what this is. This was the worst game, in my opinion, that the offensive line has had. And I'm probably wrong on that, but that's how upset I am about that. So there's my opinions, Austin. I'll let you say it.
Z is the official letter on Corey.
I'm making up a new letter. That's the new letter.
Corey gave a Z as well. Y'all are on the same page. Z for the wheel.
Z.
That's good.
I'm sorry. I got way more into that than I should have. Okay, go ahead. Listen, offensive linemen and your family and friends, because I know we've got people who follow our content that are with it. I hope y'all know that I love every one of those guys, and I don't say that lightly because I know they're better than that. I know it. So okay, I'm shutting up. You go ahead.
I had an F just because I wasn't clever enough to think of Z. But I mean, it's just, I'm thinking of one play in particular that even Gary, we gave Gary his credit. Gary mentioned, he said it was on a free rush. Bo had about 0.5 seconds before this guy was coming at him. And Gary even said, he said, that's a design for a free rush, but no one gets through that easy. It's supposed to get through that easy, even on a design free rush. And the replay showed it. It's just they look lost. And I don't want to sit here and say that's all that was the problem, because
it wasn't. No,
I thought A&M, I don't know their defensive coordinator, Elko maybe. I thought he had a great game plan for Auburn's offensive line. Knew that was the weakness. Had 2 weeks to figure it all out, and just kept hammering them home, blitz after blitz.
Again, I know I'm upsetting a lot of people tonight, and that's fine, because that's just the nature of having differences of opinions. Let me give some advice to people out there who just want to do one thing, and that is blame Bo. Go listen. You need to actually go and listen to Coach Harsin, and you should have been paying attention to his press conferences all year long, because you would actually you can gain a lot of knowledge.
That's right.
But not just listening for what you want to hear, but for actually digging into what he's actually saying, because there has to be amount of coach speak here. And there's 3 things when he was asked about Bo's game. He said Bo had a bad game, he had no support, and the Texas A&M defense did a great job, especially of neutralizing the thing that's gotten him out of jams, whether it was his own fault or because he had no support, was his ability to run. So first of all, give credit where credit is due. Texas A&M, I don't like Jimbo Fisher, especially now after those comments, but you got to give him credit. You just do. Yeah, and he had no support, and Bo stunk up the field.
Yeah.
All of those things happened, but they all coalesced together into the utter travesty that was that fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's right.
Fired up again, and I wasn't supposed
to. And I agree with Kyle. I watch the press conference every Monday, and I've done that. That's just it's very accessible now with social media and everything. I've done that all the time for the past several years. And there's a whole lot of comments that were all through the Malzahn era that he didn't give you much insight or talk much. Bryan Harsin will talk your head off. So go listen.
And he'll tell you how it is too.
It's legit stuff. Like, it may be long-winded and go all the way around the sun and back to get to the same point, but he'll talk your head off and tell you all you don't want to know, honestly. And so, yeah, I Kyle and I say that every week, I feel like, is what we talk about, what he said today. Definitely go listen, because it's how I base a lot of my grades, honestly.
Yeah. All right, I need to bring it down just a little bit, because I'm too fired up about this tonight.
Unfortunately, you can't, because now we got to go to wide receivers.
Here, real quick, this is not really related to that, but this is something I actually agree with right here, and Austin is. I think he's fine with me saying this as well. We're big Malzahn supporters and defenders, but we both recognize the worst, and I feel the worst decision he made was hiring Herb Hand. And that is what has gotten us to this point with his offensive line. That's my opinion. I'm not going to speak completely for Austin, but I feel like he's kind of on that with me.
We've talked enough about that. Recruiting, development, all of it. There's a
great recruiter, terrible coach.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it may be the thing that gets him fired again at UCF, because he hired him back. Yeah. So that's just frustrating for me to see that mistake make. So I agree with that. All right. Real quick, we're going to do wide receivers, and then we got a little special announcement here that we need to do. But wide receiver grade. This is the thing that sent it over the edge for me. I think that, honestly, I was already so upset with the offensive line, seeing that and then them continue to stink up the field. That's what sent me over the edge. It was just like, he's not getting any support. I'm screaming that I was like, he's running for his life. People are dropping balls. We got wide receivers. How are you offsides as a wide receiver? How? I was a wide receiver in high school too. The first thing that you're told to do is to tell the ref I'm on or off the ball and point to the line.
Yeah.
How are you offsides as a college athlete, as a wide receiver? I'm done. You grade.
Well, you want me to go and then you give your grade?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm getting fired up again.
Mine's an F. So F's all the way around right now. It's just, we talked about the worst game for the offensive line. This might have been the worst for the wide receivers, which is saying a lot. 4 wide receivers caught passes is what I have marked down. 5.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
5 catches for 32 yards from the wide receiver group. That's in a SEC game at 2:30 on CBS, folks. Horrid. Literally horrid is how I describe the wide receiver.
I'm not even focused on the catches. I'm how are you offsides? I'm sorry. I'm shutting up. Go ahead.
It's everything. I think what did it for me is, and I'm gonna go all the way around objective here. It wasn't a great pass from Bo. It was one that was catchable, but Kobe Hudson had no clue where that ball in the end zone was.
It's
zero.
Kobe, you have, and this is so. What happened this week? Because Kobe has been, outside of one or two mistakes, and we're thinking about Penn State and stuff like that, he's been the rock.
Yep.
And I think if anything, when you saw that happen with Kobe, you needed to be like,
yeah,
something's off.
He looked lost. And when that happened, I don't know when it was in the game. I don't remember. Oh, I just remember thinking, no.
Before you give your grade, though, and everybody else in the chat, go ahead and do it now too. Here's the problem: you've got to account for the running backs and the tight ends who did a as good a job as they could. And so, how do you like? Did you say an F? Is that what you said?
I said an F. Yeah. I'm, as much as I want to sit here and say, Shanker, thank you for actually playing football and saving grace for us like every game. But it's just, there's so much between it being offsides, looking lost, running routes. They just wanted to be in the back pocket of their defender all day because there was no separation at all whatsoever. It's just it was an absolutely horrid performance for me and worthy of an F.
So I'm not upset enough to give them a Z.
There you go.
Although that offsides thing pushed me nearly over the edge, I'm just going to give them a flat out F. Well, no. See, because I don't want to count what Shanker, Shivers, Deal with his one catch was a great catch, great throw and great catch from Bo. Like that was one of the best throws and catches, like the connections I've seen from Bo in a wide receiver tight end this season. You know, I want to give them like a D-, but I don't know that I can because I'm so upset about that offsides thing. I'll just say F- for now. And I'm sorry, tight ends. I'm sorry that you're getting lumped in with this. This maybe real quick, we might just have to split them off and just give them like maybe an A- or something like that, just because it's hard to kind of grade them on their own. But guys, and I think we all have to just step back and realize this is a unit that's lost their coach. It's going to take time. Keesaw seems to be getting in the right direction. I'll hold that for when we do overall grades for the offense here, but let's see what everybody else is saying. F-, you got invited to the party, but you didn't show up. -0 or -0. I don't know if that's a -0 or no. F-. We had got some people bringing up Seth Williams. Yeah, we're missing Seth Williams, aren't we?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay, we'll get to a whole offensive set. Do want to, as I said, we've gotten some decent Texas A&M stopping by, and kudos to, first of all, if you haven't heard us say this already, congrats on the win, and you guys performed well enough to get the win against what was a very frustrating game, I'm sure, for both teams. And you guys have handled it with more grace than Georgia, Penn State, LSU. So you're sitting good right now as a fan base in my book, which I've thought all along about the Texas A&M fans. All right, offensive line. Or excuse me, I was so bad I had to come back to it. Whole offensive grade. People have started doing that now in the chat window. We've given basically Fs for quarterbacks or around that, basically Fs for wide receivers, basically Zs for offensive line, or a Q if we average them out. We've given, running backs, depending on who you are, how you feel about it, somewhere between the C to F range. So Austin, offensive grade overall, what is it?
I so desperately don't want to say F, but I don't know how I can't. Only 3 points. That's a horrible performance for an Auburn team that has not done well on the road for years now. To only get 3 points and look that bad. It's not like they just didn't execute on the 20-yard line. They just looked bad. Couldn't get anywhere. So it's an F for me. And as much as I hate to say it, it's just a bad game. It was a really good game for the A&M defense. Just there's no one on the field on the offensive side of the ball played well. And in my opinion, played higher than a D plus. I think I gave.
Yeah.
So all of that combined, that's just a failing grade.
Do you remember what you gave for the UGA game?
Oh gosh, no, that's out of my memory.
Do you think it was an F or do you think it was a D?
For the
I feel like it was a D for the offense.
Yeah, I mean they scored, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that was a D, this is an F because
Yeah.
I think Dusty brought it up here. F minus because he was saying even for Gus for all his flaws at times didn't scored more than 3. Well, that's just the nature of Gus's offense. You get more opportunities the more you run, which is frustrating me because I'm used to that. How many times I sit at the TV going like this, and we don't go, and I'm just like, we could have run 5 plays by now. Maybe not good plays, but we're anyway. F minus, D minus, O for obsolete. That was from earlier, I think. But yeah, I think we all agree F.
Yep.
There are places like tight ends, running backs that you hate to kind of hurt them as much in that grading. But man, it was awful. It was awful. That was probably almost as frustrating as that 3-2 Mississippi State game. And I lost it. I remember where I was in Auburn. I remember I was by myself. I knew who was upstairs in the building that wanted to be away from me because I was showing my butt too much about how I was upset about the fact we couldn't even score more than 3 points. So anyway, all right, quick break here. We're going to get to defense, special teams, all that good stuff before we round out tonight. But we have to thank and bring your attention to our sponsors for this month for a lot of our live streams and videos, and that is manscaped.com. So we hope that you'll go check them out this holiday season as we're all being thankful for things, as we're all looking for holiday gift ideas. As me being a guy, one of the things that's hard to find is a men's grooming company that specializes in that and does a good job with that. Manscaped is one of those companies, is the company that you really want to look at for guys that have 4 million worldwide customers that are taking advantage of what they bring to the table. You can take advantage of our 20% off plus free shipping deal that we have with them using the code E2C by going to manscaped.com. As I did last time, I won't show you all of the things that I've been having the opportunity to try of late. But one of those things is their Lawnmower 4.0. It is a body trimmer, but you can use it for many different purposes. Not even being sketchy with it at all. As a guy and as my genes, I have a lot of hair, as you can tell, on my arms and stuff. Not that I shave my arms, but I can tell you that this is one of the best body trimmers that I have tried out in quite some time. It's got several guards that come with it that help you get it to the level of care that you need it to be. And it's safe, and it's even got this nice little LED light that comes on. And even my wife noticed the other day when I was checking it out, she said, wow, I really like that light thing on there that actually helps you figure out if you're trimming in all the right places. So check that out if you haven't. There's several other products and other things that you can buy there. You just want to go to manscaped.com to get that 20% off plus free shipping using the code E2C. Again, at manscaped.com, use the code E2C so that you can have a thankful holiday season, and we appreciate you supporting them. Austin, it is time now for us to get into our defensive grades. I have a little bit of I think, different opinion from a lot of people. I'll let you get us started off, and we'll let the listeners also get us started. Let's grade the defensive line. What do you think there?
Yeah, I went back and forth on this one, partly because, I went back and forth as well on if I was expecting a lot from them or because they've been playing well recently and got TD Moultrie back last week, and Ikuleota's had a great games recently, and Colby Wooden and Derek Hall have been there. So thought Derek Hall individually had a really strong game. But we just didn't hear a lot from them.
Right.
I had 1 quarterback hurry and no sacks, 4 tackles for loss. Thought it was good to see Tony Fair in there. That's a big dude. But just really nothing from them. And that, I think a lot of that, I don't want to just like keep hyping up A&M, but their offensive line was really good, and one I really hope we aspire to be like. But we handled their run game, which was supposed to be very potent, well early, but they were just gassed by the end of it.
One thing I want to point out, since you brought that up, two of the teams that had pretty good run games that we have kept in check until it kind of fell apart, Georgia and Texas A&M.
Definitely.
You know, there's been debates at the beginning of the season. I had this with a Texas A&M podcaster about who was the best running back in the SEC, Tank or Spiller. And at the time, I think everybody agreed with me that, you know, even the other people that were from other SEC schools on that podcast, that Tank was the better back based off performance. A lot of it's not Tank's fault. Some of it is.
Right.
It's obviously Spiller right now, but that just goes to show you that the defensive line did a great job in some areas. And I'll get to it in a second where I think that they could have done a little bit better. What's your grade overall for them?
Yeah, overall I had C- just because my expectations weren't that high, knowing how good A&M's run game and offensive line had been. But also I was just expecting just a little bit more because of the athletes that are on the defensive line. So C- is what I ended with.
My biggest thing for them is the lack of pass rush, and you have to look no further than the no sacks. And I think what did you say? One quarterback hurry?
That's what I had.
One or two quarterback hurries. Listen, the game came down to turnovers and who could rattle the quarterback.
Right.
Texas A&M did that, and that's really what it is. And again, that goes back to us being honest. Bo had a bad game; he got rattled, but that credit goes to the defense for doing that on him. So yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the tackles, the first defensive lineman to come up is Chandler Wooten with 4 total tackles. He had 2 solo. Did I say Chandler Wooten or did I say Wooten? He was way down there. You know, it's hard having 2 C. You got 2 C Wooten. You got a C Wooten and a C Wooten. Excuse me. The first defensive lineman was Derek Hall with 3 tackles. You'd like to see one of those guys be a little bit higher because that tells you they had a really great game. So I feel like they're the area that you almost don't want to hurt too much in your grade because they did a great job against the run game for the most part when it didn't kind of fall apart at the end. I'm just going to say C, just because I'm feeling for them a little bit at this point. Yeah. And that's just kind of how I'll leave that one out there. We got a C+, a C. We had a C earlier, so it feels like everybody's about the same. Linebackers. Again, we've talked about this a lot. It's a unit that you don't really want to talk about a lot. And if you do, you want it to be good things. But I feel like we should be talking about them more. And I don't mean that as like we're ignoring them. I mean that as I think there needs to be more higher impact plays coming from this area. They're taking care of business most of the time. Jacquez McClain, while he didn't have an outstanding game compared to what he did last week and previous other games, he's the leading tackler for the linebackers with 4. Chandler Wooten right there with him with 4. And Papao, I always mess up how to say that, with 3 as well. So they're taking care of business. I don't know if it was on them. I don't know who was covering Weidermeyer a lot when he was coming across the middle, but there were several passes he dropped. And I felt like that's probably on the linebackers to not even let him get an opportunity to drop that. I don't know. I'm just going to say B- because they're above, you know, they're not making mistakes, but they're also not giving me, you know, what I know they're capable of. You know, Jacquez McClain is excuse me, let me correct that because I know we've got a grammar Nazi out there that loves Jacoby, not Jacquez, Jacoby McClain. Yeah, I'm just going to stick with a C. So what do you got?
Yeah, C or B-.
I'm sorry. I thought B-. I'm going all over the place tonight. B- is where I'm at with those.
I had just slightly below C+. I didn't think it was a bad, like you're saying. I didn't think it was bad. I just kind of hoped for a little more, especially with those 3 guys haven't been on the field together all that much, especially in the last month. Papo, McClain, and Wooten. So I was really kind of hoping for a little bit more, but just missed some reads, like some things that Jacoby and Owen don't normally do. They did, and I think it really showed. But like you're saying, we don't talk about them enough. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. Hopefully, those are our, we talk about experience. Those guys have had about as much experience of anyone on the team.
Yeah,
and so kind of stinks.
Yeah, well, you like they're giving us consistency a lot of the time, and we're noticing them in the stat sheet after the fact, but we're not really talking about, oh wow, do you remember that play that he made? A lot. That's happened some. I remember noticing Chandler Wooten a lot, especially when Popo's been out. But yeah, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
But yeah, C plus is what I had. Just not bad, but just not overly great either.
They're talking about the quarterback, and I want to use this to kind of, again, we're being very complimentary of Texas A&M because we should be. You got to give credit to Calzada. Wow, guys had his leg broken. Basically, he's had his shoulder broken. Jessica, being a nurse, the moment he went down and came up like that, he said his arm's out of socket.
Yeah,
and like just the way he was holding it limp like there. The dude, you hate to see that. I hope I never have to experience that. To me, if I've had several kidney stones, and I've had pregnant women, and please, no ladies get offended, but I've had actually pregnant women tell me that they would rather go through giving birth than a kidney stone. So I'm just saying, but that to me, the anguish that's on every player's face that goes through that amount of pain at that time is what I kind of equate that to, because that's what my face looks like when I go through this.
I did not think he was coming back because of the same thing. I was like, that arm is not where it's supposed to be, and it's not going to feel good getting it back to where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that dude, especially after the Alabama game where his leg, I thought, snapped on a touchdown throw. Yeah, that guy earned big respect for me.
That's 2 quarterbacks in a row that we basically broken and still come back in and have decent games. So credit to Calzada for
Welcome
that.
to Auburn.
We break you and you still beat us. Well, not the Heisman Trophy potential candidate, but Calzada, for his credit, did. Corey, I agree. Have you had a kidney stone?
No, that is one of my biggest fears. I do not want it ever,
buddy. I wouldn't wish that on a Bama fan. I'm just going to pull the curtain back here because we've just been crazy and off the rails tonight. Want to know, like, the pain makes you do some crazy things just because your mind convinced you this will make you feel better. I laid butt naked in the middle of my apartment in Auburn. Luckily, both my roommates were gone for the weekend, in the hallway, because it made me feel better. That's how much pain I was in. Like, that my clothes were hurting me. So, yes, and at that moment, I used my body shaver, my Lawnmower 4.0 from Manscaped.com. So go check it out. Use the code E2C at Manscaped.com. Wow, I'm getting good at that. Anyway, so that's a little bit of a tangent there for all of you there. But yeah, you would love to have seen him maybe be stiffened up enough not to come back in, but he certainly came back in and had a great game. All right, defensive backs. I think defensive backs, for all their worth, there's some definitely players that stick out in some good ways here. I struggle to think of outside of, like, I think there was one bomb that they hit, the one big play that Harsin even called out in this press conference, because no offense was really doing anything in this game. I know McCreary's name came up because he was a lonely. It is a lonely place on Roger McCreary Island. It is like the guy must be bored over there, because when they do throw it to him, he's like, "Nope, swat. That's out. Get out of here." So, all that being said, I don't know. Why don't you give me your grade first, and everybody else can give theirs too.
Yeah, it might surprise some people just because of how bad of a game it was. I had the secondary and the defensive backs at an A-.
Yeah,
Zach Calzada, however you want to say his name, like 50% of his passes for 192. And like you said, the one big play was really all that was there for them. You mentioned the tight end Weidermeyer. That guy has been a thorn in Auburn's side before. He's been a thorn in a lot of people's side because he's really good. He only had 5 catches, 53 yards. I thought, Smoke Monday did a really good job on him.
And we haven't talked about Smoke a lot in coverage a lot, and he did a good job this game.
I thought he did really well and really matched up with him size-wise well. And then Roger just, Sunday Roger is just continues to fly up draft boards. Like, that guy is making money every time they throw to him. So I had him at A- just because I thought they did really well. Like, that, to me, I keep thinking back. I'm like, wow, they scored 20 points. Well, yeah, they really scored like 3 field goals, and it was very much a bend don't break, or I guess 4 field goals.
Yeah,
Um,
that's hard, isn't it?
it is very hard. Very much a bend don't break, which they've done so well in the red zone, but I just didn't think that they were really the problem this weekend. So I had an A minus, which surprises myself.
Smoke Monday got laid out by a Heisman quarterback. Calzada? What does he
I
throw
don't remember
for?
that. All I know is Smoke Mondays popped his shoulder out of the socket, but
Does he mean Smoke Monday laid him out? But anyway, I don't know. No, that was that Tennyson that laid him out? I can't remember.
I don't know. But Tennyson's one I should have brought up too. That guy had a game, and
He had
Bryan
a game. He also had some mess ups, but
he
what
did.
even Coach Harsin said is because he had, he said, yeah, he had some mistakes he made. The special teams play, I think one defensive play as well. But wow, when you come ready to play, you got a
Yes, sir.
motor and said, look, this is my time. Zion Puckett's out. I'm going to make the most of it. I think coaches said, okay, we might want to find a place for that guy to see some more time.
Yeah.
Because he wants to be out there more than anything. Roger will land in Tampa. He'll have Carl. I know you're hoping for that, Dusty. He's got some Tampa love, so he is wanting that to become defensive back university over there. Rodgers great. Jalen Simpson, somebody else called it out earlier, I think is showing that he's becoming Rodgers' protege. Still young, still makes some mistakes, but wow, he seems to be very good. And we saw that early on before he got hurt 2 seasons ago, or 1 season ago, excuse me, when he was having a great start. I think Smoke, again, had one of his better games. I don't find a lot of flaws that I can really pinpoint. And somebody asked earlier, do you know who poked the ball out on that
That's what I was just
fumble
trying
recovery? I can't really.
Donovan Kaufman is what
Is it Donovan Kaufman? That would make sense because he's a safety and he'd be back there.
I forgot
So yeah,
about that play completely.
but I mean that was almost a huge turning point in the game, but
Yeah,
we couldn't do anything with it because the offense was not going to do anything in this game apparently. Yeah, it's look. I guess I'll just give them. I'm giving them a B plus. Here's why. It has nothing to do with them. It has to do with my expectations being so low from them this season. And I don't want to have such a big fall when next week, maybe, especially against a passing team, they're not as, so I know that probably is petty of me, but I'm just being honest and candid with you. I just want to give them a B plus. I find very few flaws with it, but I still think they're miles and miles ahead. And this could have been a bit of a deceptive game in terms of how far they've come. I could be wrong. Maybe they have taken that step forward. They've had long enough to do that. We'll find out next week because they are getting the ball thrown to them a lot.
Yep.
A lot. All right. Overall defensive grades. Everybody post it now. What do you say, Austin?
Let's see. I'm going back over a B, or I had B minus. No, I had. You had B minus. I had C plus, and A minus. I guess that averages out to like a B minus, C plus range.
Yeah.
Not horrible. I mean, they are not the reason we lost at all. So not great, and things could have been better. But when you ask them to do so much, I think things end up running its course.
Yep, we got an A. Justin, our resident Georgia fan who comes here a lot, says A for our defense, C plus from Corey. I will be honest with you. I'm probably going to lean more just a B. Again, a lot of this has to do with me feeling like this is me going to get burned. So my grade is protecting myself more than anything. It has nothing to do with the defense. And I'll tell you this, when I look at the defense, I see a lot of people in their arguments about this week, and they're lamenting overly so about Bo. Wasted the defense. Do you all not remember how much you were lambasting the defense and Derek Mason not even 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Let's try to use a little reason and stuff before we kind of make such overarching statements. Have they arrived? I don't know. Don't think so. But they had a great game. And I would say that the defense had a good game in this. They were an interception away from me really saying they had a great game. Because if that had happened, we're really talking about a different scenario here, I think. It gave a little bit of momentum that would be much needed in some other areas. Also, if Weidermeyer doesn't drop the ball Apparently, the dropsies moved over. I was going to make a joke I shouldn't make right now because that'll get us flagged and we won't ever be able to go live again because that's the world we live in. Let's just say they caught a cold that the Auburn wide receivers have, and Weidermeyer couldn't, for all that was worth in his big old huge self, couldn't get his hands around the ball. And if he did that, we were talking about a much worse scenario here. Yeah. Let's see. Justin, we're taking up a collection to get you an orange and blue shirt. Look, Justin is living the life this year, and he's trying. I feel like Justin is that Georgia fan that's saying, "Don't anybody talk about it. Don't anybody don't nobody talk about it," because he knows. I think Justin's a reasonable guy. He knows what Georgia usually does. So
they're hoping the Braves ended all curses.
I wish that was the case, buddy, because I convinced myself in 2010 that the Braves were going to win the World Series, and Auburn ended up winning the national championship, and whatever other teams I was following was going to win it all. And it doesn't seem to work that way. Defense has been very solid in every SEC game, exception UGA. And UGA is a good exception to have. All right. So I think we've gotten most of the commentary about that. Really quickly, let's do special teams. And you can kind of give your overall thoughts for this and just give an overall grade. We don't have to break it down completely. But everybody else can do the same in the chat window, right? What do you think, Austin, for special teams?
Yeah, I had D-. They scored our only points, but Anders Carlson also missed a 30-yard field goal, which would have given us the lead at that point. I'm not saying it would have completely mattered, but early leads on the road are good.
Right.
So that really stinks. So that's just not what I expect of him at all. It's not like it was a 50-yarder at the end of the half or anything like that. It was a crucial moment when the game was tied and definitely within his range. So yeah, but at the end of the day, the only reason the points are on the board too. So it's a D- for me.
Here's what hurts them: the missed field goal, some miscues in some other areas, the penalty on the punt, and we should have gotten flagged, in my opinion. Well, we probably could have gotten flagged for hitting the punter earlier. I'm not as harsh as Corey is with the D. I'm going to say probably just a C because they scored all our points. And, you got to give credit to Oscar Chapman. That's just the way that being an Auburn punter goes. You always get gypped, but he should win the Ray Guy award, but he won't, just because if every other punter who's been gypped out of Auburn can't win it, he's not going to. But he's improving and now maintaining his distance. Had was it 62-yard punt because of the roll? Outstanding. The defense and the special teams gave Auburn the opportunity to win this game a lot of times, despite some of the deficiencies on special teams and the not big plays that were coming from the defense, except for the one fumble recovery. They gave Auburn the opportunity to win this game. So I'm just going to say a C for right now, just because it met expectations. Could have been a lot better though at this point. Now, I think Corey's going to bust if I don't talk about this. It's recruiting related, but yes, our kicker, Alex Mcpherson, brother of the former Mcpherson for Florida, is coming to Auburn. He barely missed a 71-yarder. He hit a 67-yarder. Austin, do you remember?
I don't. Corey said 63, but I think it was a little higher than that. But
I thought it was a 67 personally, but
it was long.
Let me just put that in perspective for you. That is, the ball is on, if I'm doing my math right in my head, 50-yarder on the 50-yard line. That would mean he's kicking from the 50 if it's a 60. So that means when he attempted, he's kicking from the 39-yard line on the opposite end of the field. Yeah. Imagine that.
Folks, that's on the other side of the logo.
Yes. Dude's a beast, and Auburn has not had to worry about kickers for a long time, and it looks like that will be their case for the next 4 years. It appears. Let's wait and see what happens when he gets it. It's one thing to have a big leg. It's another thing to be accurate.
That's right.
So just remember that. We got C, B+, B for kick coverage has improved. But yeah, so, there's a lot to be desired from the special teams this game, but there it is. The way that Harsin, I think, broke this down, and I hope you guys will check out my video tomorrow. It comes out breaking down the press conference. he described it this way: offense, terrible, or I think he said poor. Special teams, okay. He said good with some problems, and then he said good for the defense. And I would say that's probably a very fair way to break down all of this stuff today. So any other final thoughts for you before we put this nasty one to bed, Austin?
Yeah, I hope not. Or I hope so. Yeah, it's over for me. And I think the best thing to do, and I think it's exactly what Bryan Harsin did, is tip your cap to A&M for coming up with a really good game plan. Fix the things you couldn't execute well. We didn't really get into it, and I'm not sure I really want to, but Bryan Harsin talked about play calling and said we need better play calls.
That's a good point. Let's really quickly. So here's what I want to do. We'll kind of use that to jumpstart our final discussion point here. But before we start that, if you guys haven't, please do make sure you smash that like button. Again, check out the code at manscaped.com. They've got tons of products there. If the razor doesn't interest you, we'll be talking about some more stuff throughout the month. There's lots of good stuff. I can vouch for that. I've been trying it out myself. E2C is the code that you need there for 20% off and free shipping. Then check out other ways that you can help support our content here, whether it's becoming a Booster Club member, a channel member, PayPal, TeePublic, all kinds of good stuff there, ways that you can help support. You can just be here, and that we love that, but there's other ways you can do that too. I think that's all. And remember, we're going to probably do some basketball related shows here real soon, so stay tuned for that. If you have any opinions on when you'd like that to be, how you'd like that to be, you can always reach out to me and let me know. So get your last minute comments and questions in. We'll address that. But let's talk about what Austin said about the play calling. Early on, there was a lot of people wanting us to discuss whether Bobo was part of the problem. It appeared that maybe he wasn't. I'd be interested to hear Dusty, if he's still watching. Dusty's been very pro Bobo, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dusty. But I would like to hear maybe your opinions on his performance in this game. This is the first time we've heard Coach Harsin actively call out play calling. That I find that very interesting. Yeah. If you want something to read past the coach speak on, I think you can read past that very clearly. I think he and Bobo had, I won't say a come to Jesus meeting, but here's my interpretation of what happened in this game. I think so much momentum had been built from where we came from the low point at Georgia State for Bo, the offensive line, the wide receivers, that Bobo wanted to put some more things in, and they clearly were not ready for it. And so Harsin talks a lot about in his press conference, get back to what we know we do well right now, because this team is not there yet. I think that's what happened. And I think he and Harsin and Bobo probably sat down and said, hey, I know you want to do these things. I know these guys are capable of it. They're not ready. They cannot execute it. For this season, we have got to execute on what we know they do well, and then try again next year. So any other thoughts?
Well, I don't want to say this and people freak out because it's not what I'm saying. Just listen to the whole thing. But when Bryan Harsin brings up a specific part in his press conference, he wants it fixed. And if it doesn't get fixed, there's going to be consequences. And you saw that already this year.
Ask Cornelius Wims.
I'm not saying Mike Bobo's going to get fired. Nobody go over to War Report anywhere else and say the E2C guys are saying fire Bobo. Do not. That's not what I'm saying.
We're just saying that there's a pattern already set up.
I do think, though, that it better be heard. And I think it was, because I think Mike Bobo's nothing against Cornelius Williams, but Cornelius Williams is a young guy. Bobo's been coaching for a long time.
Yeah.
I think Kyle's right. I think there were some things that didn't work out the way they'd hoped. And I think you'll see those corrected. Players still have to execute, and that was probably part of the problem as well on Saturday. But yeah, the play calls were not good, and the head coach didn't think so either.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's always been more candid than Malzahn, but he was a lot more candid. And I noted that. I have my notes sitting right here.
Watch the
press. Listen, I know it's a lot. Sometimes it's boring.
It's on replay. You can watch it whenever you want.
Just put it on in the background. I'm telling you. Or you can just listen to my videos, because I promise you, I last 2 weeks, I've listened to it twice in a row to listen to what the guy is saying. All right. I'm glad he got in here. He's one of our channel members and our Booster Club members. And I actually asked what his opinion was. So we got to hear from Dusty before we go. Dusty, what's up? Dusty, can you hear me? Uh-oh. That's awkward. Dusty, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you. Just a little bit of a lag.
Yeah, don't you love the internet? It's a little bit of lag issue going on. We're doing all right. How about yourself? I think we still got a slight delay. Let me. How about this? Can you hear me now? Yeah, we got a big delay. Okay, we got a big delay here. So I'm going to ask the question. And I'll let you respond. We'll just wait a second for it to catch up. Tell me your thoughts on Bobo's play calling.
It's so hard to judge, man, because like you didn't get anything going on first down. You didn't get anything going on first down. Second down, I mean, every single time you were in third and long. So it's just the only thing that I was getting frustrated at as far as play calling was the only success it seemed like we had at all was in those big jumbo packages where we just had, it looked like 9 linemen up there or whatever. It seemed like we were getting okay gains on that.
Right.
But I mean, I don't even know how to judge it. And it's just, I mean, is it a bad play call when Kobe Hudson just drops a 30-yard pat? Like,
yes.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Is it a bad play call when Shed Jackson just falls down? Is it a bad play call when there's a wide open hole and Tate Bigsby runs into a lineman?
Yeah.
Just runs into the back of him. I mean, are those bad play calls? And what you got to understand is the ones I'm talking about, with the exception of the Kobe drop, which would have been a big third down, or maybe that was second, but I believe it was third. But these are like first down plays we're talking about.
Yep.
You've got to get 3-4 yards, man. Like you have to, because we don't have the explosiveness. We don't have it.
Right.
So we're going to have to just go and go.
This is exactly what I wanted from you, Dusty. Like, this is exactly what I thought you were feeling. I just didn't want to speak for you because, you know, I want everybody to be able to have their opinions and speak it. But, like, I feel like I've gotten to know you well enough this season where I'm like, I feel like I know what Dusty's thinking right here, but I just want to make sure before I actually speak for him. So
it wasn't Mike Bobo's best game. It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't anybody. I mean, look, you saw what we did to Ole Miss with the bye week. Jimbo Fisher is a good coach. I don't like him. He needs to shut his mouth.
Yep.
But they had a bye week. They rested up. And I mean, look at the game. This is the SEC, man. And this season, if more than ever, one thing that everyone keeps doing that blows my mind is quit projecting stuff for the rest of the season. Quit doing that. With everybody, especially this year. Georgia's going to beat everybody. But everything else, that LSU team hanging with Bama, what? Like, okay. So just, it's going to be every week. And I feel like with Harsin, man, that we're going to be okay with that being the situation because that's what he preaches. I don't want to hear any of this crap this week, you know, about 11-0 start at home, blah, 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 blah. You just scored 3 points. You've scored six points, I guess, in the last 6 quarters. Let's come out and bury this team that we're clearly better than.
Yeah. I'm gonna hand the show over tonight to Dusty. I know, like just this is mic drop over here. I mean, well done, Dusty. Like round of applause for you, sir. That was great. I
said in the reaction show Saturday, man. 8-4 is what I predicted. You know, this is a big game, and it's every week's a big game.
Every week's to get 1-0, baby. That's all it is. 1-0. Focus on it. And that's all it can be right now. Still, here's the crazy thing. And please, all of you prognosticators out there and predictors and looking ahead, don't read too much into this. But this is just who I am. I tend to try to be more optimistic. Auburn doesn't control its destiny anymore, but a ball has to flip the right way, and Auburn might have something special, not a big something, but a little something. You never know. All you see now, in my view, it's not that the pressure is off, but now you're just playing football. Go beat the team that you're supposed to be. Go beat Mississippi State. They've been, you know, weird and beat people they shouldn't this year. Don't let them do that to you. Go to Columbia, take care of South Carolina, and come take advantage of that magic that happens in the Iron Bowl in Jordan-Hare Stadium, and let the chips fall where they may. If we end up in a, you know, just a New Year's Eve bowl. So what? It's a year where, we're transitioning all this stuff. Enjoy it, man. There's a lot left to enjoy about this season. So Dusty's got me fired back up now. Oh, goodness.
Well, I'll leave y'all with this. If you look at where Penn State is kind of going around, you look where we're trending. We got some tie-ins with the Big Ten. We could finish 8-4, 9-3. They could finish 8-4, 9-3. We might get to see those guys again.
We might.
How about that?
I'd like some revenge to see what happens.
Maybe
there.
down in the Outback Bowl that we've given up a couple times and we shouldn't have. That'd be nice.
I'd like that. Love that. That's a good mic drop for you, sir. Thank you for calling.
All right, War Eagle, guys.
War Eagle. Good to hear from Dusty. I'm glad we got his perspectives on Bobo, because he's been very, very not necessarily like I would say pro Bobo, but like not that you couldn't be pro Bobo. That's a weird word to say, pro Bobo. But I think what he said is good. I think it's a very similar case to the whole Bo discussion. Nobody had a great game. No one's arguing that. I think that's what's missed in some of the people that are so upset about Bo or whoever you're upset about this week or next week. No one's claiming someone had a good game. Yeah. What we're saying is you have to have patience and let and figure this thing out.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Very objective and level-headed.
I hope so, because I lost my cool again tonight about being offsides. 9-3, Felix says, and Corey says Auburn's destiny is to screw over Bama this year. Well, I hope so, because there's nothing that would make everybody happy like a post-Thanksgiving celebration with that. I think we've gotten to all your comments. Thank you guys so much. Good crowd tonight. And we'll be back this Wednesday night for our breakdown and preview of Auburn versus Mississippi State and then old pirate himself, Mike Leach. As we leave tonight, I'll let Austin. Are you ready to give a prediction for that?
I think we win. With Mississippi State, and I don't want to be too what's the word, critical of them. I've got a really good friend that went to Mississippi State, but that's a game Auburn doesn't normally lose, similar to Ole Miss.
Yep. Let's take care of business.
Let's take care of business. So I think Auburn wins. I'm not sure what the score looks like. I think it could be a fun one, though.
Could be
their offense, and I think we'll get some things figured out. But take it one game at a time, and let's go 1-0.
We will be here on Wednesday night to break it down. Hope you all will join us again. On your way out, smash that like button. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Austin. We'll be back again very soon. War Eagle.
War Eagle.